Hey everyone, this is James LaBrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
Hello, lovers of all things prog, rock, and metal. Welcome to another interview of Sonic Perspectives. I'm Rodrigo Altaf, and today I bring you the singer of one of the most original and influential bands of all time, Mr. James LaBrie of Dream Theater. James, how are you today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. Well, I'm in Toronto, so there's a lot of snow here today.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm in the same area as you are, so I'm looking at it as well. I see it as well. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for agreeing to do the interview, and I imagine this is a very busy time for you with the upcoming release of the new Dream Theater album, Distance Over Time, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything's, pretty much starting to gear up. We're at the point where the album is being mastered, and then, there's a release date in February, and then we're going to start the tour in March. Down in San Diego, I believe March 20th is the first date.
Yeah.
And so everything leading up to that, there's a lot of prep work, not only musically, and that we decide on a killer set list, that that most fans are going to really embrace. But there's also, obviously all the promotion and all the interviews, such as what you and I are doing here today.
Yeah.
And absolutely. Everyone's in high gear, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, for this album, you guys decided to convene in an isolated property and work together in the album this time. When I heard about that, I couldn't help but think about the old Led Zeppelin albums when they got together to Headley Grange and write and record the whole thing. Did anyone make that connection at the time, or?
Well, I think first and foremost, we made the connection, John Petrucci, John Mayung, and myself. We recalled doing that because the last time we did that as a band was when we were recording Images and Words. And once again, we were at Bear Tracks Studio in Rockland County area, upstate New York. And then we actually all lived in this house. It was about, about 10 minutes from the studio in Tompkins Cove. It was the name of this town that we were in. And we were all living together in the house throughout the duration of the recording. So we were all talking and kind of reminiscing about those times. And so it was kind of cool to come back to this because, it was somewhat like, like a summer camp. But at the same time, what you're doing is you're there to produce a new album, new material. And it was cool because I think what it allowed us to do is it enabled us to, granted, when you're in the studio and you're focused on, coming up with the ideas, putting the ideas together, and slowly but surely, forming them into complete ideas or songs, there's also all the other time where you're kind of just chilling out. And you're sitting around one another, and more often than not, the conversation obviously comes back around to the music and where things are at, and how we feel, and the direction that it's going, and maybe even focusing on that particular song at the moment that is being worked on. So it's kind of cool because it doesn't allow you many distractions, right? So you're not getting away from it. You're kind of in that zone, and you're there pretty much 24/7.
Okay. And, well, so far we have a couple of song titles already revealed. Fall Into the Light, Paralyzed, At Wit's End, and Barstool Warrior. John Petrucci, I think, revealed those song names to Rolling Stone. How have you contributed to those ones, and did you have any involvement in the music this time? Or just the lyrics?
Yeah, so just music, I mean, I was there, but basically, I mean, for me to say that, I was involved in the music, I would say more or less I was observing the music, and if anything felt, a little weird to me, then I'd voice my opinion. But for the amount of times that I would say that, it's not even worth mentioning. You know? So, but then when it came time for writing the melodies to the songs, and then I wrote lyrics to 3 songs. So that part I was involved in. But I think, you know, because I remember, you know, and granted, you know, I've had this discussion. It was for my own sake, but I remember bringing it up at one point. It was kind of like, yeah, you know, there's part of me that when I'm here and I'm just like being a part of the process and I'm listening, I'm trying to really kind of gauge where we're going and where we're at, and you know what the end all result is going to be. And so for me, it's kind of cool because if at any point I can be, you know, objective with it, and the other guys, obviously, you know, that's part of the whole process with any band, that when they're writing, is that, you know, you leave all your egos at the door and you're just basically candid with one another if you like something or you don't. And what was surprising with this was just how quickly it was going on. And with all that being said, you know, you have to, I don't know if you were speaking to any of the other guys, but I believe you did an interview with Jordan.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And he might have mentioned to you that, you know, at the end of the day, the actual days of writing, I think it worked out to be something like 17 days, if you can believe it. You know, I mean, that's how prolific, how fast things were coming together. And but it was kind of cool. You know, like I said, you know, I wrote lyrics to 3 songs, one of the songs being the bonus track on the album. And I think everything came out exactly as we had hoped and as we had been discussing leading up to the actual time in the studio to actually start writing.
Oh, that's good to hear. And, well, it seems you guys kind of took the same approach as the self-titled album to a certain extent, in the sense that the songs are a bit more direct, right? Not necessarily shorter, but more direct, more straight to the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you know, you're coming off, you know, our last album was very conceptually based.
Yeah.
You know, it was very theatrical as well. And so, I mean, you know, it was about getting back. And I think this was a few things. You know, one being, you know, we wanted to kind of encompass or encapsulate all of our, I guess, roots and where we came from and our influences originally, and what does that say to each and every guy. And I think, you know, also chasing sonically something that's a little more organic, and then ultimately creating something where we can say that each song is really, you know, it's always got to be who and what we are. It always has to be identified as Dream Theater, but something that's just, you know, we're just creating something a little more than what was previously done. So I think with this situation, I think when everyone hears the songs, they're going to be going, wow, you know, like once again, I think they, you know, an album is an album, but the way that we approach this and the songs themselves, I think they speak individually. And with that being said, though, I think that each track is very, very exciting and very, very unique.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the same time, it's already been announced that you'll be playing Scenes from a Memory in full. For me in particular, it's very special because I missed that tour. You know, I was living in Brazil at the time, and you guys didn't come. So,
right. Yeah.
But do you remember actually the last time you played the album in full?
Oh my God!
I know the answer to the question.
You know what? Do you know the answer?
I do. Yeah.
I think I do too. I think I do. I could be wrong, but I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Was it not when we were in South America?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. And was it in? It wasn't Buenos Aires, was it?
No, it was São Paulo.
Oh, was it São Paulo? And wait a minute. And that was an outdoor gig.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in Brazil at the time. I was living in Australia, and then I saw that tour in Japan. The Octavarium tour. Yeah. But from what I heard from that night, it was in São Paulo, 2005, I think. And you got the news of a family member passing away halfway through the show, and you carried on.
Yeah. Well, that was my father. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So he was. He died while we were on that tour, December 11th. And, you know, and the guys were completely, behind me. They go, if you have to go home, you have to go home, and you got to do what you got to do. And I said, well, no, I'm not. My family's going to wait for me to get home after the tour, and I appreciate that. And yeah, it was tough. I mean, I really had to kind of hold it together. And I think what I did each night is I just went on there and I kept saying, this is for you, Dad, because my dad was a huge influence to me, growing up musically, and and he loved to sing, and he was in barbershop quartet singing, and but he's also the one that really introduced me to people like John Coltrane and Miles Davis, and and really making me appreciate jazz and instruments and how they spoke, how they each had a voice, and so I owed a lot to him because he was my biggest fan, and it was just amazing who he was and what he was during life, and so it was a little difficult, but the shows went on and the shows went down great.
Yeah, well, I saw the tour a couple of weeks after that, in Japan, and you nailed it. You did the Made in Japan from Deep Purple at the show I went to. So,
right. Yeah. I remember doing that too. God, man, yeah. So you've seen a lot of cool nights then.
I have, yeah. I saw you guys in Europe in the self-titled tour as well. I did the meet and greet and everything. So, yeah, long-time fan.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, without revealing too much, are you planning to change any arrangements of the Scenes from a Memory songs, or?
Well, at this point, I'm going to say that that's always a possibility, but none of those conversations have taken place yet. And just from a personal standpoint, I think just the fact that it's the 20th anniversary, I think that maybe aside from if we do decide a few improvisational moments here and there, maybe. But I think, to really do the album justice and to really honor the album for what it is, would be cool to just, play it like it was written.
Yeah.
And I think nothing beats it. Just stick to what was there originally, and I think that'll even make it that much more magical. I think just the fact that we're going to be honoring that album and playing it from front to back is just going to be a real thrilling experience, not only for the fans, but for the band too. It'll be an inspirational moment for each and every one of us.
Oh, cool. For me, it's a second chance at a bucket list item. Because
That's great. That's awesome.
I missed that tour. So, yeah. Well, having seen you guys in the Images, Words, and Beyond tour here in Toronto last year, you guys seem to enjoy that trip down memory lane. So I have a question about that time. When you joined the band, you moved from Canada to the U.S. Was that a move you were already planning to make or thinking about making regardless of the invitation to join the band? Or?
Well, you see, that's the thing, Rodrigo. I never moved down to the States. I stayed in Canada.
Oh, okay, but I mean, focusing more on the North American market or the American market, so to speak.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like just getting into that whole U.S. kind of headspace.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I mean, to me, I was in a band called Winter Rose before Dream Theater, which everyone knows, or most fans of Dream Theater would know.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was already starting to deal with U.S. labels like Atlantic. Were very interested in signing Winter Rose. So I'd already started to wrap my head around, that this is a completely different market. It just allows for so much more to be had, on a much larger scale, just because the country's population is 10 times that of Canada. So, to me, I think that's what, ultimately what really mattered to me is, am I going to be able to make something of this? If I get into Dream Theater, which I believed in right from the very beginning, that we had all the potential and we had all the earmarks for a very unique and individual band to be able to say something and bring something that most bands weren't even, entertaining in the slightest bit. So I knew that, if we got our fair shake in our moment, that it would really take off. And fortunately for us all, it did. But no, I mean, the whole thing to me, to be honest with you, Rodrigo, is that it was, I just want to make it. make it in music, and if there's any band that can do it, it's this band, and because we're so unique and so diverse, and the virtuosity within the band was incredible even at that time. So to me, it was God willing, I hope that this can be something that's successful, and it was.
And did you think from the get-go that you guys had created something unique? I mean, when you talk about prog-metal, there's other bands that were doing something similar, like Fates Warning, Queen's Right, but they surely didn't have the same impact or influence that you guys had in the scene. Right? Yeah.
I mean, no, I was definitely aware of these other bands that were out there and that were, kind of carrying the torch for that progressive element within music. But I just knew that what Dream Theater was doing musically was just standing on its own. It was its own language. And I just thought, if we play our cards right, and this album is captured, the magic is captured with these songs, images and words, then if the right people hear it and the right amount of people hear it, then it's a no-brainer that it's going to be a success. And also there was also that little bit of trepidation, because you have to also remember that when the album came out in 1992, grunge was huge.
It was,
at that point. And so you had your bands like Nirvana and even Soundgarden to a certain extent, but Soundgarden to me was more like a true classic freaking rock metal band. To me, I mean, I thought they were freaking amazing, and I always did. But just going into that environment musically was, most people, like I remember Derek Oliver, who got assigned to Atco or Atlantic. I remember him telling us stories when he was going to the label and saying, no, there was this band, Dream Theater, we got to sign them. They're freaking amazing. That most of the people at the label were like, are you sure about this? Like, I don't know. Their music doesn't sound like anyone out there. And, thankfully, Derek was there, and he was also a journalist, and he was a big music fan of so many different kinds of bands. And he thoroughly understood us, and he thoroughly appreciated who we were musically. And he was, our guy in the ring. Like, he went in there and he got us signed when I think most people were very apprehensive to make that move. So, like in anything in this world, like in any business, you need key people of influence, the powers that be, to be willing to believe in you.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That was our situation.
Yeah. And what would the James of today have told the James of 91, 92 if he could?
I don't.
Good question, huh?
It is a good question. I mean, I think I guess the only thing I could say to him is, holy shit, man, enjoy the ride, because it goes fast. It goes fast. Like, I still can't believe that. That's already 27 years ago. And it's just amazing. We've had such a brilliant ride all along, and not unlike anyone else out in the music industry or any band that's been around that long or as long as we have, that you have the dynamics as well. You have the highs and lows and the challenges and everything else that goes along with. But we're a strong unit, and we were able to really just stay focused, and the focus was on the music and who we are. And let's face it, I mean, I don't know many other bands that tour harder than we do. We're going out for a year and a half at a time, that last world tour was 2 years, and we were all completely burnt out physically, mentally, and all that. But I mean, it went from the astonishing right into the 25th anniversary for Images, and so it was very, very taxing, but at the same time very thrilling as well. Yeah.
Well, aside from Dream Theater, you also had a very prolific solo career, 2 Mo Musler albums, a couple of solo albums. Some fans are wondering if and when you're going to release new solo material.
Yeah, well, I think what it comes down to is, Matt Guillory and I, that we started this thing way back in 1998, and it did start, like you said, the Mo Musler albums, and then it morphed into the James LaBrie band. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's just as much Matt Guillory's thing as it is mine. And he's an integral part of it. And so that being said, is that, I really don't, the situation is this: I need to wait for Matt to find the time to really be able to sit down and put all these songs together and to basically put an album together. And I mean, there's many ideas. We have many ideas, and that's not what's lacking. What's lacking is, he has a full-time gig, and so at this point, I'm kind of at the mercy of Matt being able to find the time and us being able to put aside the right hours or whatever you want to say each and every day to be able to put this together. So I think at this point, we speak off and on, on a regular basis, and we're just kind of saying, he's saying, please be patient. I'm trying to find, make a window of opportunity available so that we can actually sit down and put all the songs together and get another album out. And we will eventually do another album. At first, we thought we were going to have one out even a year ago, and then things come up in people's lives, and you have to be, cognizant and considerate of that.
Yeah.
So I think, as far as I'm concerned, it'll happen. I just can't really give you a definite timeline.
Well, a lot of people say that your solo career, the material in your solo career, favors your singing style more than the Dream Theater material. Would you agree with that assumption to a certain extent, or?
That's interesting, and I've heard it, very many times. I've read it, and I think maybe what it might be, and my analogy of it is that when Matt and I write together, it's very, very vocal oriented, and that's not to say that there's not incredible musicianship going on, because everyone in that band, Ray Riendo, Peter Wildur, Marcus Foley, Matt Guillory, they're all phenomenal musicians.
Yeah.
And there are many times in all those songs that they're able to show just how virtuosic they are. They all are great players. And there's a lot of moments in those songs where the instruments are really at the forefront. But I think overall, the predominant element that's being focused on is when Matt and I are working on these songs, we're thinking vocals and we're thinking melodies. And so it kind of lends itself to vocal really being the focus. And I think because of that it's it tends to kind of show itself a little bit more. It's a little bit more naked and upfront. So I mean that's my observation. I think too with Dream Theater is we've always been known as this progressive metal giant, but at the same time we've also been very highly recognized for the instrumentation in the band. So it's not necessarily one instrument more than the other. I mean, it's been everything. A keyboardist that's incredible, guitar player, bass player, drummer, and singer. So you're trying to make all these five elements make sense at the end of the day. And I think that we've done a phenomenal and an admirable job keeping that in mind and keeping it, for the most part, very balanced.
Yeah,
but it's a different monster. It's a different beast, because of the nature of Dream Theater, and where we go musically, the direction that we go is quite different than where Matt and I tend to go musically, and and the direction that we tend to make it.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame that you don't get a chance to tour as much as well with your solo stuff. Actually, I spoke the other day with a drummer that toured with you, John Macaluso. He said hi.
Yeah, he's an amazing drummer and amazing guy. He's phenomenal. Yeah, he's such a great guy. Yeah, so he was out with us. In 2005 when we went out, and we had a great time. I mean, it was such a cool thing. And I mean, we were only out for 4 weeks. We did I think something like 5 or 6 shows in the New York State area, and then we took off and went over into Europe and that. But it was a great experience, and the band sounded freaking amazing every night. So, I'm always hoping that is a possibility, but I got to be honest, Rodrigo, it's so time consuming with the Dream Theater thing. And I tend to do things on the side. And just today I released, there was a video that I shot with a band called Last Union from Italy that I sang, and I guest on their album and sang 4 songs with them. And this one song that I did with them, President Evil, is out there now. It just was released worldwide. So, you can check it out.
Yeah, we posted about it on our website today.
Oh, there you go.
We did.
So you're already aware of it. I tend to do things on the side and work with other bands, other musicians, and but at the same time, for me to be able to, I'm really hoping that somehow, some way, a window of opportunity will avail itself that we can rightfully and justifiably take out the solo band and do a tour, in Europe and through North America and wherever else we might deem possible.
Okay. Well, I have a question about your singing technique. I'm not a singer and I don't play an instrument, so I'm just an educated music listener, if I can call myself that.
Okay,
but
sure.
Well, sometimes when you're going for high notes, you stick your tongue out a lot. And what's the objective when you do that? And did you see someone else doing that or employing the same technique?
No. I think that just happens to me naturally. I've always felt that when I stick my tongue out, and it helps open up my throat. Mm-hmm. So it helps to make everything a little more open for me, and it helps to resonate in the mask area of my the face. So to me, I can feel the notes a little more that go up into my chest tones or my upper register, and I can feel that into my passaggio or whatever. And so to me, that's what works for me. Now, technically speaking, yeah, you'd probably have a lot of vocal coaches that would say, well, nah, he should maybe have his tongue flat, and that's fine, but what works for one or many doesn't necessarily work for everyone. So you have to find whatever you feel enables you to be comfortable when you're singing things from beginning to end, and whatever that is or whatever enables you to do so, then that's usually what a singer will adopt as something that works for them.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your other endeavors, like you just mentioned, you sang with Rick Emmett in a track that also had Alex Lifeson of Rush. In a way, that kind of summarized quite well the whole contribution from Canada to rock and prog. You have Rush, Triumph, and you on the same track.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, that was so crazy. And we were in the studio the same day, the three of us, and it was so cool. We kind of just sat around, talked, and it was like we were at a bar having beers, because we just we're hanging out, and it wasn't so much. Yes, I was there to record the songs and singing that, but it was also just about talking about life and families and blah 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 blah. And it was so kind of real to me that here I go. I'm looking at Rick Emmett, who's a phenomenal musician. I'm looking at Alex Lifeson, who I think is one of the most incredible guitar players in the world.
Well,
and then his music with Rush that he wrote, it speaks for itself. I mean, the guy's just an incredible writer as well. Yeah. And so it was just cool to kind of see these two guys, and then them respecting myself, and just three Canadians going, hey, look what we did.
I saw Geddy and Alex a month ago in an event, and to be honest, only now I stopped shaking, man, because, meeting them was a dream come true, and, I've been a fan for so long.
Where did you see them?
It was an event called Grapes Under Pressure.
Okay.
Basically, we went on a train to Niagara-on-the-Lake, had a wine tasting, and they were there, It was more like a reception, and we were able to catch up with them, take photos and whatnot, so very cool.
Right on. Oh, yeah, man. And they're both really nice guys, right?
They are. Wow, they were very approachable, very kind.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing about those guys, man, is that they're real.
Yeah. Well, one thing I was always curious about is the meet and greets. From memory, I think you guys started doing these in 2008, 2009. Is everyone in the band equally comfortable with them? Because, I mean, it's the kind of situation where you have to be ready for intense adulation or some annoying criticism from people you've never met before, right? So,
yeah, you know what? I think everyone's okay with it, but I think our biggest concern is, we really don't want people feeling that they can just touch us, and I get it, like they spend money to get there and be with you and to hang out with you and that. But I think our biggest concern is if we shook hands with everyone and we hugged and embraced, we'd be sick because you're meeting so many thousands of people, or you're around so many people all the time when you're on tour, and then to be doing the meet and greets where there's anywhere from 50 to 100 and 100 plus people, that's a lot of people to be coming in contact with. And it's something I'm always very paranoid of, because if I get a wicked cold, then I'm fighting a beast out there on stage. And the same with the other guys, like they don't want to get sick. And so I think we're comfortable, meeting our fans and having conversation with them and doing pictures with them. And obviously you're talking about the music. We all love to talk about our music. So that's not a problem. I think the biggest concern is we just don't want this ending up making us ill or making us sick in some way. That's our biggest concern.
Yeah, understood. And I saw an interview where you said the most difficult song in the whole Dream Theater catalog for you to sing is Elimination Theory. And, hard to argue against that because it's a very difficult song. But do you think that long songs like that one, or Octavarium, Count of Tuscany, In the Presence of Enemies, etc., could get back to the set list once again eventually? Or
Yeah, I think so. I think eventually. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I say something like that, it's just stating the fact. It's like, those are big numbers to sing. Like for any singer, they would be a very challenging thing. So you really have to, make sure that you're in the best shape and you're in the best headspace possible when you have songs like those that you just mentioned in the set list and each and every night, right? To me, I hope that we get around to songs in our catalog here and there, eventually, and not so far apart, because they are a part of who and what we are, and we know they are songs that the fans want to hear.
Yeah.
So but the problem is once when you have 14 albums out, it gets a little more difficult to try and say, okay, so how do you put that in a 2-hour evening, or how do you get enough in there to really satisfy each and every one of you? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So you really have to pick up, like, where are we at? What is it that we're doing on this current tour? What is it that we're trying to attain musically? And is it going to be something that we feel good about, and at the same time be absolutely satisfying for our fans?
Yeah.
So it's a lot to juggle. But yeah, I mean, I hope that we do definitely get back to those songs becoming a part of the set list, for sure.
Well, Dream Theater is the kind of band that if you play all your albums back to back every night, there will still be complaints, right, about the set list. Oh, you didn't play like this or like that. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it doesn't matter. You're always going to have someone that's going to say, "Oh man, I can't believe it, man. This is their set list." So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If we did, like, let's just say that every 14 nights we were playing each and every album from beginning to end, right? You know what? Then the complaint would be, but they're not playing my album when they're in my city,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just kind of like, you just got to really think what is best for Dream Theater as far as who and what we are, and what it is that what we think is supposed to be us at this particular point in time.
Yeah. Well, at some point in 2010, when Mike Portnoy left, there was talk of you taking over the White Set Jam special releases, but that's still dormant at the moment, except for... Yeah.
How have I done so far?
Well, there was one free release on Christmas morning of 2012, I think.
Right. No, you know what? Yeah, I don't know how the hell that started. I don't know how that started. Like, I really don't. I
Oh,
remember I remember the band, like we had those conversations and we
yeah.
were like, okay, well, this is a lot to do. And, Mike handled those duties admirably. Like, there's no doubt about it. But,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like, I think really what happened was that, we were just creating a whole new chapter in the career, and focusing on the album
Hmm.
that we were releasing, like whether it was a dramatic turn of events or, the self-titled or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think, in between that, and then each guy was doing his thing in between that it just kind of, and not that we don't have like we've recorded every single flippin' show since the beginning of a dramatic turn of events.
Uh-huh.
We have every show recorded. So it's not like we're lacking in material to put something together. And maybe there will be one day that, we can sit down as a band and we can say, okay, why don't we take from this album these nights and from this album these nights and just go boom, 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 right?
Hmm.
And just put it out there for the fans. And that would still be a huge, huge release for us to do any of what we've done since 2011 up to the present and moving on forward. You're talking about a lot,
Yeah.
just to find those nights that were so magical and special for the band, where we go, oh my God, did you listen back to that recording? I mean, everyone was on fire. Everyone sounded freaking amazing. Boom, boom, boom. So even to get all of those and then decide amongst them on each world tour which ones we want to use, that's a mammoth undertaking.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, let's talk about tour preparations for a minute. Do you have a period where you go through the songs by yourself before meeting the band for rehearsals, or do you wait until everyone's together to go through the material?
Well, I think everyone starts to go through the songs individually at home. You start to rehearse them, and I start to sing through them when I'm at home, and
Okay.
so yeah, everyone does their
Homework.
homework. Yeah, absolutely. We can't just show up and then boom, okay, let's go for it. So I think by the time, now the one thing is the band usually gets together 2 or 3, even maybe 4 days before I show up. Just so that they feel really tight. They feel very sure with all the sections, all the segues and boom, 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 right? And what we've created as the set list. And then I'll come in and I'll do 2 or 3 days with them, depending on what it is that we're doing. So, like more than likely, if I was to guess right now, because nothing's set in stone, but, like let's just say we're starting March 20th. So more than likely, those guys would be together from around the 12th or 13th of March, rehearsing. And then I would come in around maybe, let's just say the 16th or 17th and rehearse a couple days. And then there's a day before the show where, everything's kind of like down and we're not doing anything. And then you kick off the tour. So that would be kind of typical. Other tours, it depends on what it is that we're doing. Other tours we will rehearse for 10 days in somewhere in New York, and then we all fly to Europe and we start the tour a week later in Europe. But we had that initial, block of rehearsals. So that by the time we get to Europe and we're ready to do the first show, we have one long sound check that day, and then boom, the tour starts.
All right. And I've seen shows you did with Jordan only, and you had an acoustic number with Petrucci in the Dramatic Turns of Events tour. Would you consider doing something low-key, like a mini tour doing only acoustic stuff, all by...
Yeah, we keep talking about that, though. That has come up, actually. We were talking about that, oh my God, I think as far back as maybe even, like the self-titled tour. Started to bring that up. Hey, what would be really cool, guys, is just maybe one little leg within a world tour where that leg is just strictly an acoustic leg. And we just go out and we do a bunch of songs that we feel are best suited for an acoustic environment, and just bring it to the fans that way and just make it a very intimate and very emotional night musically. I think, that definitely is something, like I said, that we've discussed, and it will hopefully come to fruition one day.
Oh man, count me down for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
yeah.
it's been, I think, 98 was the last time we did anything like that.
Yeah. Well, taking a sidetrack here, tell us about your son's musical endeavors. It seems that his band Fawcett is taking off, right?
Yeah, no, my son's band Fawcett, they're doing amazing. You know, they were just playing me some of their new music just the other day. My son was saying, "Here, let's go take a drive. I want you to." You know, because we like to go out in the vehicle and then crank it, you know, just have it blasting. So, yeah, and he played me a new song that they had just worked on, and it sounds freaking amazing. And, like, I'm blown away. I'm like, you guys are contenders. I mean, you know, you guys are right up there with anything that is new coming out, anything in their demographic. I mean, they're all, like, 19 to 24 years old. So, you know, I mean, they're young, they're extremely talented, and the one thing that really gets me about them is they have great songs. I mean, it comes right down to their songs, great melodies, very, very, very melodically influenced, and so yeah, you know, I really think they have a shot at making something happen. They're going, you know, they just came back from doing something like 10 dates there. They were out doing a little mini tour, you know, in clubs and that. And right now they're focusing on getting into a studio and then recording their new batch of songs and then, you know, getting them released and seeing where that goes, making the right people hear it. I think that they really do have a shot at making some huge waves, for sure.
Well, maybe I'll be interviewing Chance one day. Who knows, right?
Really, let me know, man, because you know, he can sit down and talk for you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, two half-joking questions from the fans.
Okay, sure.
First one, what kind of drink is in your bottle on stage? And what do you do backstage when the long instrumental sections kick in?
Jeez. You guys are obviously talking about my thermoses.
Yeah.
On stage. Yeah. So that's just like, it's just a little warmer than warm, a little hotter than warm, I should say, as the water. And then it's a little splash of honey in it.
Okay.
And that's what I keep sipping on. And as far as backstage, when those guys are doing the long instrumental thing, I'm usually smoking cigars and no, I'm kidding you. But no, I mean, I'm usually back if I'm not sitting in my tent. Like I'll be sitting in my tent and kind of like just stretching and doing stretches. And then if I have an exit or an escape and I can go right backstage, I'm usually doing a little bit of once again, stretching and jumping around just to keep the blood flowing, and then, you know, just, you know, humming here and there. But no, I'm just waiting to get back out there and just get back on with the show.
All right. Well, one last question is, you have already the date scheduled for North America, but that's unusual for you guys because you usually start in Europe, right? Is there any particular reason for that, or? No,
I mean, I think part of that would be we plan on doing the big festival tour in Europe.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, it kind of wouldn't have made sense for us to start in Europe and then go back again, you know, and then do the festival. So it only made sense that we start in North America this time, then go do the big festivals throughout the summer. And then I'm not sure where we go from there, either down into the South Pacific Rim, Australia, and so on, or going into South America and going throughout South America. So I'm not sure after the summer leg at this point, after the summer festival tour, what will be happening, but I'll probably know within a month or two for sure.
All right. Well, let's finish off with a message to the fans who can't wait to see you guys on tour.
Well, looking forward to seeing everyone out there. This is going to be a phenomenal tour. We're really excited about the new album, Distance Over Time. I can't wait for you to hear it. It's going to smack each and every one of you upside the head in a good way, not aggressive way. But, and, you know, honestly, we're looking forward to doing the Scenes from a Memory each and every night. And along with the songs from various other albums, it's just going to be an amazing evening of music and a lot of fun. Great production. Everything is going to be there for sure.
All right, man. Thank you so much. I'll definitely catch up with you guys on April 4th when you play here in Toronto. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Thanks, Rodrigo.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Awesome. Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, folks, time for me to sign off. I hope you enjoyed this interview with the amazing James LaBrie as much as I did. And I bet you're as excited as I am about Dream Theater's new album, Distance Over Time. If you want to find out more interviews and articles like this one, give us some love. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and check us out on www.sonicperspectives.com. We're finishing off with one of my favorite songs from Dream Theater's current lineup, The Looking Glass. Take care, rock on.